Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic in the run-up to Christmas. Hope you're having a good time. Now, we got a very surprising accolade a couple of days ago. Thinky Games, a community which promotes and shares and reviews video games, included us among the nominees in their content creators category. I think mainly for our Blueprints streams. Blueprints is also nominated in the Game of the Year category, and that's very exciting. It's not something we ever expected. We know we're not going to win, but if you were disposed to think about voting for us, that would be incredibly kind, and there'll be a link under the video. I don't know what winning such an award means, but obviously probably better than not winning it. But anyway, as I say, there are some video game streamers who even I have heard of in the list, so the chances of us winning are very close to zero, but there we go. That is the news, and I'm very pleased about that. Never thought I would see myself as a nominated video game streamer. And I mean, I know it's mainly Simon, but there you go. Right, I'm looking at a puzzle by Demono on the screen, and it features battlefield rules, which I have not tangled with in a while. So I'm looking forward to it. Demono, of course, came up with the brilliant sort of, was it Rod of Ramesses stream? Or sorry, first of all, it started as a Patreon reward. There was a fantastic story. Demono spun off his own Kickstarter as well. So, I mean, he's a fascinating constructor. I'm looking forward to doing battle with this battle line. I'll explain the rules in a moment. I've mentioned the Thinky Games thing. There's also Patreon. Very soon, solution videos to the Wind in the Willows puzzle hunt, but also a gridogram video coming tomorrow morning. We will be streaming again, by the way, on Monday, we believe, subject to everything working with Simon's PC, etc. We will be streaming on Monday evening at 10. One person wrote to us and said they really were hoping we would, because it's going to be his birthday, and his birthday treat is planned to be putting up his feet with a glass of something and his two daughters and watching us stream. I mean, happy birthday. Happy birthday if that's your plan. So we will be streaming. I was talking about Patreon. There's loads of content there, crosswords and connections, etc. We've got, of course, a link to Sven's Sudoku pad and to the apps under the video. They feature Sandwich Sudoku, which is not the same as today, but has numbers outside the grid. They also feature Classic Sudoku too, and the Worms, so do have a look at those. But I'm going to go through the rules of Battle Line now. Normal Sudoku rules apply. 1 to 9 will go in every row, column, and 3x3 box. For the battlefield rules, we have to consider the first X cells and the last Y cells of each row and column, where X is the number of the first X cells and Y is the number of the last Y cells. So imagine you had a 4 there and a 3 there. X, that is X, and the first 4 cells are those cells. This is Y, so the last Y cells are those cells. There is a gap between them. There's always there is either an overlap or a gap, or 0 between them. So if it was like this, there'd be a gap, and the number outside the grid is the sum of that gap, would add up to 15. Now, I mean, it is also possible for that to be a 6 and this to be a 5, and then there's an overlap, and then it would turn out it's those same 2 cells that add up to 15 in that case. Now, there's one further rule as a sort of negative constraint. All cells that are part of an overlap in both the row and the column are shown as red. There's 2 of them. All cells that are part of a gap in both the row and the column are shown as green. So even in rows and columns where there isn't a clue, there is an overlap or a gap. Since that's green, it must be part of a gap in row 4, but also a gap in column 7, depending on what those digits are. And all such cells are shown in those colours. There we go. That's enough clues, apparently. 5 clues outside the grid and some coloured cells. Give it a try. It's a long time since I tried one of these. I don't remember the techniques, but let's get cracking. Oh dear. Okay, so green is part of a gap in this column. Now surely this has to be a 1 at the bottom. For that to be in the gap, this hasn't reached that cell. Oh look, I can just write in a 1 there, and then if I'm right about my understanding of this, green's part of a gap there, so we're talking 2 or 1 cells here, but we've used the 1, so that must be 2. I think I can just write in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. And these gaps begin with these green cells as we look upwards from the bottom. I think that's right, you know. The gaps seem much more helpful to me at the moment than the overlaps. Oh, no, not true. Not true. This is part of an overlap. So whatever digit this is has to include that in its count. So this is 8 or 9. This one has to include that. So it's got to be at least a 7. That's quite interesting. This digit is very small. The gap is including that, so it can only be 1, 2, or 3. This digit can only take the count down to there because this is in the gap. So again, 1, 2, or 3. This one can't be a 4 because of that. Now, those 4 cells are being counted. The gap of 22 must be at least 3 cells because you can't get to 22 in 2 cells. So this digit is 1 or 2. This gap adds up to 15. That could be 2 cells or 3 cells or 4 cells. And that leaves this digit to be 4, 5 or 6, I think. Now, this is part of the overlap, and this is just like down here. This is casting a shadow of at least 8 cells into the row to get that. And then this is part of an overlap that adds up to 26. Now, it doesn't have to start here from the right, because if this is a 9, that overlap would include the final cell. Gaps can't include the final cell because we have to put positive digits in the perimeters. Now, this is a big number to be a gap, 21, just as 22 is quite big there. This gap is, I'm going to get rid of that yellow. This gap is at least 3 cells. So the digits in the perimeter can't add up to more than 6. That's not as helpful as I thought. Okay, this gap, that's interesting. This gap must include those 2 cells as part of the gap, at least. But this cell has not been coloured green, so the gap in this row begins here. And this digit must be a 3, because that didn't get a green colour. So it's in the sort of battle line that's heading west from here, heading east from here. And this is not green, although it's definitely in this gap here. So it's not in this gap. So the number here is taking us either to there or there. So it's 3 or 4. Well, that has to be a 4. And this is low. It can't be, the battle line doesn't extend that far. So this is 1, 2, or 3. Actually, that's 4, and we've got a 21 as the gap. It's at least 3 cells, so that can't be a 3. That's 1 or 2. I'm not very good at focusing on where the actual clues are cited. Oh, but this is... No, have I messed up? No, I haven't messed up. These are in the gap. No, it's okay. I've been doing this right. Those are in the gap vertically. So it can't be in the gap horizontally because it's not green. That conclusion's fine. This is in the gap horizontally, so it can't be in the gap vertically because it's not green. Now, this gap carries on at least 2 cells there. And there is a gap in this row. Hang on. That 9 must be referring to a gap because there is a gap in this row. There can't be an overlap because there's a green cell in it. Sorry, excuse me, just 1 second. Just have to deal with that. There we go. And I hope it won't ring back again. Oh, stop it. Sorry about that. I'm just going to do that one more time, and hopefully it won't make a noise, but it probably will, and I'll get rid of it in a moment. Oh, come on, you silly thing. It's not doing what it's meant to, so hopefully I did deal with it. Right, anyway, in this row, we've got a definite gap, and that means that we don't have an overlap. And I'm saying this cell can't be in the gap because it would be coloured green. So this runs up to there, this battle line. So that's a 6. This is a 1 or a 2. And this is either a 9 or these 2 add up to 9 and then that's a 1. That would be really interesting because we've got a 1-2 pair here. If those had to add up to 9 together, they couldn't be 1-8 or 2-7 or 3-6 because of that. They'd have to be 4-5. So this digit is either a 4 or a 9, the single 9 in the battle, in the gap, or part of a 4-5 gap. These add up to 21, or it could be 4 of them that add up to 21. The negative constraint's really important here. I am beginning to gradually get that. Oh, this is in the gap going northbound. Excellent. No, not excellent. Impossible. No, not impossible. I was trying to think about this row. We've got an overlap of 26. I think this cell has to be in the battle line. That 26 is at least 4 cells. 987 doesn't cut it for 26. So there are at least 4 cells, including this, in the overlap. Well, they have to include these cells. And I was thinking, well, this is a huge problem because this is now a clash. It's not a clash. It's absolutely fine. This is in the overlap going horizontally and not in the gap going vertically. That's obviously fine. It doesn't mean that this is forcing this digit to be a 3, unfortunately. In fact, this digit can't be a 3. If that was a 3, this would be a battle line. No. No, no, no. Nothing. It doesn't mean anything about that digit. Now, I said 4 digits, and then I coloured that cell. I can't colour that cell because it could be these 4. If that's a 9, oh, these could be 8, 7, 6, 5 and be the full overlap. But they would, no, that's really interesting. That wouldn't work. Because that digit would have to be 4 if the only overlap was those 4 cells. So that digit is orange, which is part of the battle, no, part of the overlap total in this row is that digit. That's really weird for this cell to my mind, because that contributes to the gap in this column, which is those 3 cells only, or those 4. But it also contributes to the total of the overlap in this row. Oh, these battle lines are so strange to me. Right. Anyway, we've got some progress. I can place 6 in the bottom row. That's just Sudoku now. Now, this is part of the overlap. And that, I could have written this 9 in at the very beginning, because the battle line must go all the way down to here. Now, this is adding those 6 cells. That is the overlap in this column. We've got a 9 battle line going down to there, a 6 battle line going up to there. That is the overlap. Annoyingly, that we don't get the number for it. So I just know that this digit is 7, 8, or 9. 9 there has made this digit an 8. And now the overlap is 4 cells, at least. Now, I can write in candidates for this digit if I think about it, because we've got to extend at least 5 here, and it could be longer. It can't be all 9 because those can't add up to only 26. So this is 5, 6, or 7. And the overlap is either those 4 cells, or those 5, or those 6. If that was a 7, and that was an 8, and these added up to 26, that would be a 4. That's perfectly reasonable. If that was a 5, and these added up to 26, that's 31, 39. These would have to add up to 6. They would be 1, 2, 3. That works as well, annoyingly. Wow, I mean, I still find this whole concept quite confusing. That's not an 8. 8, 6, 4, 3, 3, 6, 1. These maybe, or those, or even those add up to 15. Well, it can't be 5 cells in the gap adding up to 15 because they wouldn't include a 1. That's silly. Have I got this in the gap? Yeah, that's in the gap. This can't be a 6. The battle line either runs to there. Hang on. Can it be a 6? If that's a 6, these 2 cells add up to 15. Why is that not possible? Why have I even coloured this yellow? I don't know. I think I'm being a numpty. That could be a 6, and this could be a 7, 8 pair. Yeah, okay. I'm calm again now. Now, if that was a 1 and this is a 4, then these 4 add up to 22. 27. These would add up to 18. I am liberally using a fact I haven't actually told you about today, that is that every row and column adds up to 45. That's a standard feature of Sudoku. It's a secret we sometimes tell you. I don't think I've mentioned it, but it is true. Now, if that's a 2, we're looking at those versus those. These 3 would add up to 22. And they would have a 9 in, and that's not really useful information yet. I've got to use the negative information more, haven't I? I really have. I haven't used it enough. I don't know how to. That's the problem. Now, this is not in the gap. It's either 1 or 2 cells that are either 4, 5 or a single 9. We've got either 9 there and a 2 here, or 4, 5, 1. And if we've got 4, 5, 1, that's a 2. And then these 3 cells have to add to 21. Something about the 1, 2 interaction. I feel it might matter. Oh, goodness. Okay, can that be a 7, 8 pair if this was a 6? Let's say this was a 4. Those 4 cells would have to add to 15, but the minimum would be 2, 3, 5, and 6. That adds to 16, so that's not a 4. Okay, that's good. It's reduced one possibility. If that's a 5, then these 3 add up to 15. That does seem highly possible. One of the counted rows or columns must be the most helpful thing to do now. Those 4. Or is there some Sudoku? There could be some Sudoku, weirdly, just sitting here waiting to be done. Those 5. No, it's the overlaps and things, isn't it? I really should be depicting somehow gaps and overlaps using the pen tool. Like, there's a definite overlap of those 6 cells in that column. And in terms of gaps in the rows, let's use blue. That's in the gap. It might be 2 cells. Obviously, these are all in gaps because they're coloured green. Oh, and look, I could sort of do an overlap in this bottom row. I've got 7 or 9 in the first cell and 8 or 9 in the second. So these are all definitely in the overlap, and none of the others are coloured red. All that proves is that none of these can be a 9, but I knew that already. That is a 7, 8 or 9. So all of these cells are in. That has to be at least a 3. Ah, all of these are in. Oh, yeah, but that couldn't be part of an overlap in the row because there is a gap in the row. Honestly, things were going so well when I filled in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down here. Now I've stumbled to a complete halt. There is a 6 in one of those cells by Sudoku because of that 6 and that 6. This is totally uninteresting, really. Well, except that it means there wouldn't be a 6 in a 3-cell total of 15. Is that of any use? There wouldn't be a 1 in it either. If there was a 3-cell total of 15, that would be a 5. So then there wouldn't be 5, 6, or 1. But I think there are still plenty of ways of doing it that mean I can't make an assessment there. In this column, this cell not being coloured green in the puzzle, is that, no, it's not in the gap going north. It was that one that was interesting there. That's why this had to be a 6. Oh, the numbers up here, they can't be very big. I haven't tried to fill them in. This can't run down to further than there because this is in a gap. So this digit is 1, 2, 4 or 5. This digit can't be more than 6. So it's 1, 3, 4, 5 or 6. Now, that 4 runs to there. That 3 runs to there. That 6 runs to there. So nothing else here is really trying to get in the gaps. This digit is 1, 2 or 5 because again that's in a gap. And the 9 in this column has to be in one of those 2 cells. It's not here because that could never be a gap. Oh, I mean, that's so totally obvious when you finally see it. 7 there. So this is at least a 3. And we've got, well, This overlap in the bottom row is extensive. But all it proves is that 9's not in those cells. That's so uninteresting. At least I've done the bottom row. That's quite a shock at this point. This digit is 2, 5, or 7, but this is in a gap, so it's got to be a 2. Oh, wake up! So these are from 1, 5, and 7. And the 8 in the top row has to go here by Sudoku now, as much as it's the pencil marks. Then there's an 8 in one of these two cells. That 8 and this 7 give us a huge overlap in this column of these cells. But, well, none of these are candidates for red because they're in rows which have a green gap. That's why. No, hang on. This is it? No, it doesn't stop that being a 2. No. The overlap in this row is at least, that's at least a 5, so that only gets us to there. That's why I've coloured these cells. They're part of the 26 count, or maybe all of it. If they went to that cell, they'd have to include a 9. The outies that are not part of the overlap add up to 45 minus 26 equals 19, and they include that and that. If that was a 7, we worked that out before, this would be a 4. If that was a 6, these two add up to 5 then. Yeah, I don't know how to use that. Now, what do I know here? I don't know how long the gap is because I don't know which of those is a 1 and which is a 2. I don't really have a count. I have a count on this gap, either 4 cells or 3 cells, adding up to 22. 985 or 976 if it was 3 cells. In this row, I've got 21 in either 3 or 4 cells as well. If it was 3 cells, it can't be 489. It would have to be 579 or 678. But if it's 4 cells, it's much harder to determine how much it could be. There's a 9 in one of those cells by Sudoku. Something is very obvious, isn't it, here? There's a 2 in one of those 2 cells. It can't be here because of 1-2 pair. I mean, I just don't see how Sudoku's really helping me in this puzzle at the moment. Certainly not in places where I'm not looking for a total, like here and here. I don't even know if I definitely remember from the past that getting the perimeters is easier than filling in the other cells in these puzzles. Maybe it's dependent on the pattern of greens and reds you get given. Now, if that was a 7, that would be a 7. We'd have a lot of overlap in this final column, but since there's no 9s over here, that doesn't really matter. Actually, that would be the overlap. No, it doesn't really matter. Are there any further gaps we have to avoid? For that not to be green, one of these two digits must be a 5. That's really weird, but it's definitely true. If they weren't 5s, that would be in the gap in both the row and the column. So one of those is a 5, and they're both looking at that cell, which can't be a 5. That is so strange. Now, if that was a 1, this is now definitely a 5. Oh, this digit has to be very small because that's in a gap. This has been available forever. That's a 3. Can't be 1 or 2. So it definitely goes up to there. If that was a 1, this has to be a 5. Does that 3, has that done anything Sudoku-y? 3, 1, 2, 8. These digits include 5 and 7. These are from 4, 6, 8, 9. 1's in one of these cells. That's just not helping. Is this still able to be a 4, 5? If that's a 1. 4, 5, 1, 3, 2. That would then be an 8, 7 pair. This would be a 6, 9 pair. So 9's either in one of those cells or there. That's a very weird dichotomy. Oh, I'm a numpty, but I just find this very difficult to get your head around. This digit, no, that couldn't be because we've got battle line extending there and there and there. So these are just not candidates for green cells, and nor are these because of the battle lines that extend. Goodness me, it really only was that one, which remains insisting that one of these digits is a 5, or maybe both. But neither of those row or column have a numbered clue in it, which is a little irritating. These digits are selected from 4, 5, 7, 8 in a total of 15. Now I've obviously factored in that that could be an 8, 7 pair only on its own, and that digit would be a 6. If this was a 5, these would be either, well, they couldn't be a 7, 8 pair because it would be the wrong total because we'd be adding that cell. So they'd have to be a 4. If it was 4, 7, that would be a 4 to make the count right. That's no good. So these are either 4, 8 would work with a 3 here. So if that's a 5, this is 4, 8, and that's a 3. But if that's 6, this is 7, 8. So there's always an 8 here. And it's either 4, 8 or 7, 8. So there's never a 5 here. So in these cells, we're selecting from 4, 5, 7, and there's always a 5. And that's the sort of Sudoku that won't help at all. Now, if that was a 5, these are 5s and that's a 5, and this is a 1, 7 pair. If it's a 6, that's a 7, 8 pair, and this is a 4, 5 pair. I mean, it's all a lot more constrained than I'd realised, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I want some of that actual positive information coming out about now. Now, in this column, we've got 22 in either 3 or 4 cells. If it's in 3, it's 985 or 976. How can I possibly use that? Ooh, I've just seen there's an 8 in one of those by Sudoku. Now, there's probably some cell somewhere lurking that's really needs something done to it to stop it being red or green. It's going to be quite difficult to find. Where's the 9 in the final column? It's It's not here or here. These 9s would kill that gap. In fact, that can't be a 6 because it would stop that gap. Oh, I can just fill in this 4-6 pair. A 9 has to be here by Sudoku. I mean, it's all so elementary when you think of the right questions. And I mean, I know you can mock me for not thinking of them earlier, but it's hard. Right. That's a 9. So this is definitely in, this is vital, this cell here. Why is this not red? It would be red because it would always be in an overlap in the row and an overlap in the column if that was anything other than 1. And there's the answer. That is a 1. That's why this cell is not red. Sorry, I'm trying to unread it. Now that's a 5. And that's a 7. That 5 reaches the middle cell. That's why this is not green. Okay, but now we've got some Sudoku. Lots of Sudoku, perhaps, to do. Well, no, maybe not lots, but a bit. Okay, these are not 1s. That seems to be a 4, 5, 6 triple. Why can't any of them be 7s? This one because of the total, and these ones because they would spoil the gap. So that's the 7 in the row. That's a 5. These 4 cells now definitely add up to 26. They're not 8, 7, 6, 5, so they must include a 9 in one of those two. Maybe we do the outies, 26, 31, 39. Yes, this is a 1, 2, 3 triple. Is that right? 26, 34, 39, yes it is. That 1, 2, 3 triple, I can fill in the 1. The other two are the 2, 3 pair. These digits are from 4, 5, 6. Now I've got a 4, 5, 7 pair in this column. These are from 1, 2, 3, 8. That's probably not that helpful, but anyway. Those are 4, 7, 6, 9. So that's a 4, 6 pair. This is a 7, 9 pair. I mean, I can remove this colouring now. I've basically done the count there. Now I got a 2 here, so it's just these 3 cells that add up to 22. If they're 9, 8, 5, it's 9, 5, 8. If they're 9, 7, 6, this digit has to be the 6 with a 7, 9 pair above. Okay, I'm going to give them a different colour. Let's make them orange. They have to add to 22. Now we've got a 21 in this row, which includes those 3. I don't know if it's 4 yet. I haven't sorted out this 1, 2 pair. I've done a lot else in this puzzle, but there's more Sudoku to come. A 1, 2 pair there. 9, 1, 2, 7, 8, and 3 is in one of those 2 cells. Where's 3 in this column? It's either there or there. Now, this column, this is still not resolved. What was it going to be if it was a 5 there? 4, 8, 3. That can still be a 3. Bother. It would sort so many things if it was a 3. Oh, these can't be 4s anymore. Not since we got this. What have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 9. Oh, we've placed the 3. I hadn't seen that. That's a 1, 2, 9 triple in this column, and that makes this digit a 4. Not only does that do a bit of Sudoku, that determines this row. This 9 gap has to be a 4, 5 pair. That's a 1. This is a 2. This 21 sum is now definitely 3 cells. And they're not 9, 8, 4. They're either 5, 7, 9 or 6, 7, 8. Hang on, let's do some Sudoku first. This seems to be an 8, 7 pair. I think that's right. Oh, that's coloured yellow. This is a 6, 9 pair. Now, if these are 6, 7, 8, that's a 9. If these are 5, 7, 9, that's a 6. Where's the 1 in the row? It's definitely here. That's not a 9. I suspect that is, but I don't know. This is... That adds up to 22. This adds up to 21. We've done the 9. We haven't done this 15 yet, even though I've narrowed this down. Where's the 3 in the row? Oh, one of those 2 cells. Five, 7, 9 would give us a 5, 7, 9 triple there. 6, 7, 8 would give us a 6, 7, 8 triple there. Which one of those is more valuable? I don't know. I think I still have to do Sudoku. 6, 5, 4, 1. One of these is an 8. These are from 2, 3. Ah, one of these is a 7. How do I know that these don't include a 7? How have I determined that? Is that absolute nonsense? I think that's bad pencil marking. I absolutely dare not rely on that. Because I still think this could be an 8-7 pair. I don't see how I've pencil marked 7 out of those cells, so I'm putting it back in as a possibility. I mean, it's probably a pencil marking mistake that has been made, if I'm right at this point. Either that or it's a pencil marking correct thing that's happened before. Oh, this can't be 5 anymore. So this is a 7-9 pair in this 22 sum, and that's a definite 6. Now that's 9 and that's 6, and these can't be 6, 7, 8. They must be 5, 7, 9. Oh, well, this is big. That becomes 7, that's 9, that's 7. This is done. This is done. This one is not. This is a 3-8 pair. That's extraordinary that I don't know the order at this point. Oh, I do, because there's an 8 in one of those cells. Right, this is now a 4-1 pair. I can fill them in. This is a 2-3 pair, similar. This is now 8 and 9. They get filled in. This is 2 and 7 in the box. And this digit has become an 8. This is now 5. That's 9. 3 in this column has to be there. I was expecting that to be a 3 a bit earlier. Don't know why. 1-8 pair there. 7-9 pair here. 5-6 pair here. They're resolved. That's a 4. This is 8. I mean, I think we're going along okay now. This is now a 5-6 pair. Now, 3 there has allowed this to be 4-8-3, but not forced it to be 4-8-3. Are there any of these clues? I've done that one. I've done that one. I think I've done this one. Yeah. This one I have not finished yet, but I don't know how to. This one I have finished. So I've done all the numbered clues apart from this 15 thing. Everything else is just Sudoku or something. Right, 5 there says this is not 5. It places 5 here. 1, 2, 9, 5 there. I can remove all my silly lines from the grid. They're not really doing anything anymore. And indeed this coloured cell. Although, no, I'm not going to remove that because that's part of this sum of either 2 or 3 cells. Now, there must be something that determines the final step, and it's probably very, very easy indeed. 7. No, I was going to say it has to be in one of those two. That's not true. Right, let's look at this column. If that is a 5, this is 8, 4, 7. And that becomes 7. Oh, 3 is looking at this cell. That's 2 and 3. That's 2 and 7. Now this is 8 and 4. And now we are adding all 3 together to make 15. And that is a 5 to make the count right in the column. And that'll do it. Goodness gracious. I have not stumbled through this a bit. That's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 9, 2 and 1, and I'm hoping this tells me I'm right at this point. There we go. Battlefield is the variant that got me into setting Sudoku in 2020. Thank you for solving my puzzle, says Demono. Fantastic. It's a good puzzle, and it's good fun. And yeah, join us on Monday evening for more blueprints. Thinky Games would love it if you do. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.